Hello and welcome to the Healthy Middle Ground podcast with me, Jen Curtis. In this episode, we're going to talk about the 6 psychological stages of change. Now, this has been a really helpful framework for me as a coach in identifying where people are at in the process of change, because change isn't it's not like you have some insight and then you just change overnight, right? Which is how most people think change works. Instead, change is a difficult and long process that people move through gradually. People cycle back and forth, they pause, they get stuck, they restart. And understanding which stage someone's at helps you match the right intervention to their level of readiness. And that's a big lesson that I've learned as a coach over the past few years. So just as a broad example, when someone's in the beginning stages of change, they're in the contemplation stage, they're thinking about it and they're not ready to take action yet. They're weighing up the pros and cons, they're thinking about their current life, they're thinking about their current habits, they don't want to let go of their current habits, but they're starting to consider what change would look like. And ultimately, they're trying to weigh up if the pros outweigh the cons, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day, right? If I make this change, is my life going to be better for it or worse? And it always comes down to that balance, right? There's no point making a change and working really hard if it's going to make your life worse, right? So what I've learned to recognize is that if somebody is in those beginning stages of change, if I then come along as a coach who's got all the answers and just give them an action plan and say, okay, here's what you need to do. We need to track your calories. We need to make sure you get enough protein, make sure you're getting enough steps. They will shut down because they're not ready for that yet. They're not even sure if they want to make this change. They're not sure if it's going to benefit them. And what they need help with is they need help working through that problem and figuring out if it is indeed a change that they want to make. And likewise, if someone's at a later stage of change and I'm coming along and philosophizing about it, it's not going to be very helpful. But I think that this framework can be really helpful for you, and that's why I want to share it with you. If you are in that process of change, if you're thinking about, getting fit, if you are kind of frustrated that you've been overweight your whole life, or maybe just since having kids, you've struggled to get rid of the last 10 kilos and you struggle to get, into a really serious, to get serious with exercise and actually show up consistently and do it every week. Or maybe you do it for a week and then you give up and then it takes you a few months to get back to it. Or maybe you do really well on a diet and lose a few kilos and then like a holiday comes along or a vacation and then you gain it all back and then you just give up. If you are, wherever you are in this journey, right, wherever you are, whatever change you want to make, this is a really helpful framework for thinking about it, for understanding where you're at in this process. And I found it really helpful for myself in understanding certain changes that I'm trying to make in my life or have made in my life, how and when I've been able to move from one stage to the next and what's helped me move to that next stage. And that has helped me better help my clients to do the same. Okay, so the 6 stages are, number 1, pre-contemplation. This is when somebody just doesn't think there's a problem and they're not even thinking about making a change. Number 2 is contemplation. This is, I know that something needs to change, but there's a lot of ambivalence and I'm not sure what to change and I'm thinking about it a lot. Preparation is, okay, I'm ready to make a change. I just need a plan. I just need to know what to do. Number 5 is maintenance. So you've already made the change and now it's becoming a part of who you are. It's becoming a habit. It's becoming integrated. And number 6 is relapse, going back to old patterns and failing and slipping up, which is most people when they get to this stage, when they have made a change and they slip up, they think this is the end of the road. As soon as I've slipped up, that's it. I can't carry on. But it's actually a normal part of the process of change. You slip back into old patterns and then you catch yourself and you remind yourself what you need to change and why. Okay, so let's go through each of these 6 stages in a bit more detail. And what I'm going to talk about in each of the stages is 1, what the mindset is of the person who's at this stage. Number 2, I'm going to give examples or signs that you're at this stage. Number 3, I'm going to talk about the emotional driver or what's behind it, digging a little bit deeper. And number 4, what a helpful coaching stance is, or, if you're going through this process on your own, a helpful way to think about this if you are, if you're trying to figure it out yourself. Ways that you can help yourself and talk yourself through it. And I'm obviously going to link this mainly to fat loss and health and training, because that's what I do. But I am going to also give examples along the way of other lifestyle things where this is relevant. And honestly, on my online coaching program, I always say to people, the diet and the training part, that's the easy bit, right? That's like 10% of what we do. It's really not rocket science. It's the psychological part of it. It's all the lifestyle stuff. It's all the habits that you've got that need to change. And often things get in the way of doing what you need to do in terms of fat loss and training that they don't seem that relevant. It's not like just about eating better. Sometimes it's about other lifestyle factors that stop you, that create obstacles from you being able to do what you need to do. So we're going to talk about them too. Okay, so stage number 1, pre-contemplation. This is when someone doesn't think there's a problem. They don't see the need to change, or they feel like change is impossible or pointless. So this might be somebody who is very, very overweight, but doesn't think it's a problem. It might be somebody who has then gone down the body positivity route and says, like, changing myself is completely impossible, so I'm just going to accept who I am. So often people who are in this stage, they're not coming to me for coaching anyway, as you can imagine. But where it does sometimes come up in the coaching is if I notice a change, if I notice something that's happening in someone's life, say they're only getting 3 hours sleep a night or 5 hours sleep a night, or they're overtraining, or they're eating too much of a certain thing, or they aren't doing enough steps, and I flag it, or they're not managing their stress well enough. And I might say something to the person and they're like, Jen, what are you talking about? I just need you to help me with the diet and the training. And they just don't think it's a problem. And so this is something that does come up a lot. And this is where I have to tread carefully as a coach, because trying to get someone to see a problem that they don't see to be a problem, that's really hard. That's a really hard transition to make. And signs that someone is going through this is minimizing, like it's not that bad, defensiveness, or avoiding the topic. Now, obviously, this is hard to tease out because it could just be like, if it's genuinely not a problem, then of course they're not going to talk about the topic, or they're going to defend themselves, or they're going to minimize it, right? So, I have to have an awareness as a coach of, am I really on the right track here? Or am I barking up the wrong tree? But I would say some of the most common ways that it comes up on the coaching program is dismissing discomfort in their body. So for example, someone who's only sleeping 5 hours a night, they're constantly exhausted, they're constantly sleep deprived, but they're just normalizing that, I've always felt this way, or since becoming a parent, I've always felt this way, so it's just completely normal. Or people who really struggle with emotional regulation and so have binges or emotional eating sessions in the evening, they just kind of dismiss the level of discomfort that they're feeling as completely normal. Another really common example of this is people under-eating. Some people start the program and they cut their calories really low. Some women try to just not eat all day and they just drink coffee and they're starving hungry all day. And then once they pick their kids up at 4, that's when the wheels start to fall off. They start overeating, they start snacking, they start binging. And the next day they're like, oh, I need to not eat again. And they just start the whole cycle again. And they normalize just, this is what you need to do to lose weight. I need to just not eat. But actually they are under-eating and under-fueling their body and setting themselves up for the binge later on. Normalizing burnout is another really, really big example of this. I see a lot of women who are in this vicious cycle of taking on too much, trying to do too much. I talked about this in my last podcast on time management, trying to just cram too much in and just being constantly exhausted and overwhelmed all the time, living with really high levels of stress all the time. And then every month or so, they're like, I'm sick again. And sometimes it takes several months of them getting sick before they say, wow, okay, now I'm starting to realize it's a pattern. Or they get sick really badly one time and they're out for 2 weeks, they're bed bound, they feel miserable, and they're like, this is my body really telling me to slow down. But the number of women who normalize that constant burnout, that constant overwhelm is absolutely astounding to me. But it really takes a lot for that person to make a shift and realize that it's not actually normal and there is something you can do about it. Another way is avoiding mirrors, scales, or clothes that don't fit. And this usually happens before coaching starts. So sometimes people start with me and they're like, I don't know how much I weigh. I haven't weighed myself for a month or for a year because I'm too scared to step on the scales. I'm too scared to see what I see. And obviously when they're doing that, they're just continuing to gain weight. So I call that ostrich syndrome. And sometimes people say, oh, can I do the process without weighing myself? And I used to acquiesce to that and I don't anymore because I think it's just a way of not facing the music. And I think that one of the first really important things to do is really get an audit of what's going on. So when someone starts on the program with me, I get them to weigh themselves. I get them to take progress photos and take measurements. And often people say, oh, that was really uncomfortable and really confronting. But I feel really motivated now to make a change because I was really burying my head in the sand. I didn't realize how much weight I had gained. So often people are right on the cusp. They need a little bit of help getting out of this pre-contemplation mindset, but they're not quite there yet. They need a bit of hand-holding. And another really common way this comes up is by saying, I just need to be more disciplined, but doing nothing differently. They just think they need more willpower, more discipline. They just need to do it this time, but they continue to not change anything. And where it really comes up, and it's really interesting, is I'll say, okay, how about we start doing one workout a week? And they'll go, is it enough? And I'm like, well, you haven't done any workouts for 5 years. So yeah, doing one workout a week is a massive change. They're like, oh, I thought I needed to work out every day or 4 times a week. So they're living in this dichotomous thinking of everything's wrong and I need to make this huge overhaul. And then because the overhaul is so big and mystifying, they don't do it and they don't do anything. They don't even make small changes towards their goal. And the emotional driver here, what's really going on is it's protection, right? They're protecting themselves from shame, from disappointment, or from overload. So the most helpful thing that I can do as a coach when someone's at this stage is not pushing habits or talking macros, meal plans, calories, step targets. It's reflective language. It's naming the cost of how things are gently and asking them questions that help them reconnect to what they deeply want. So this often happens on the discovery call that I do with someone, that they're sort of not quite aware of what needs to change, but maybe they've got an idea that they need to change, and helping them reflect on what's really not working at the moment. How do you feel right now? And helping them to build a picture of the cost of what they're currently doing. Getting them to describe the situation that they're in, that I feel really like none of my clothes fit and I feel really uncomfortable in my body and I feel really uncomfortable, getting naked in front of my husband, and I just hate my tummy and I'm just too scared to work out because I just feel so tired all the time. But basically getting people out of ostrich syndrome, gently bringing them from burying their head deep in the sand to actually looking at the situation. And this is where getting people to take measurements, step on the scale, and really look at what's going on, really face the music. That's a very hard thing to do, but it is necessary in order for somebody to move from this pre-contemplation stage to contemplation. Okay, so stage 2 is contemplation. The mindset behind this is I want to change, but I'm so tired, overwhelmed, I'm scared I'll fail again. This stage sounds like yes, but they're really aware of how bad they feel in their body. They've realized this is a problem. And what it often sounds like is, I know what I should do, but I just can't seem to do it. Now, this is often, again, that goes back to that dichotomy where people are in a real mess and everything is chaotic and nothing's working. And they think that they need to make this massive overhaul to eating just salad 3 times a day and being really strict with their diet and working out every day. And the jump is just too big. So that's often what people say, I know what I need to do, but what they think they need to do is ridiculous and nobody can do it. So part of my job as a coach is breaking that down into very tiny steps, identifying point A, where they're currently at, identifying point B, where they want to get to, and then helping them break it down into lots and lots and lots of tiny steps so that they can see it's not about making one big change from one day to the next. It's making lots and lots of small changes, and small changes you can do. They often say things like, I start off strong and then I drop off or I fizzle out. Okay, so often, again, because people are making these huge overhauls and it's just not sustainable. Or they say something like, I lose myself when life gets busy. The emotional driver behind this is often conflicting identities. So they want to be a good mother, but they also want to be somebody who is fit and healthy and takes up space for herself and sets healthy boundaries. And it's often also wanting two different things, like wanting to eat the cake and also wanting to be skinny, right? And that is often a mismatch between short and long-term goals. So short-term gratification, instant gratification, just like feeling better now, numbing myself now, just eating some chocolate, just not thinking about it, whatever, YOLO. And then doing things that are in your long-term interest that are going to make you feel better downstream in the short and medium term. You know, if you eat a sensible meal with protein and vegetables, it might not be as delicious now as the chocolate, but you will feel better right after you've eaten it, an hour later, 4 hours later, the next day, because of that choice. So it's often the conflict between instant gratification and doing things that are in our long-term interest. But the other major thing that's underneath this is also dichotomous thinking, right? Like I said before, everything's chaotic, everything is all over the place, and they think they need to make this massive overhaul, and they eat way too few calories, and they starve themselves, and they're doing way too many workouts. And then they have this dichotomy between one thing that sucks, which is staying the same, staying overweight, not feeling good, and this other thing that sucks, being hungry all the time, and like working out all the time and not having any energy for anything else. So again, my goal is to break it down into steps and actionable steps that feel actually doable, to make it doable for that person. So what works here for me as a coach is to focus on giving them permission and helping them to build self-trust through small wins, doing small steps at a time in the right direction, and getting that under your belt and then feeling good about it and being ready for the next thing, making it feel possible in the first place by breaking it down to manageable steps. But also talking about values and identity, what really matters to them and who they want to be and why they want to do this. It helps to talk them through the ambivalence rather than convincing them one way or the other. Get them to talk about the pros and cons of change and why, if they feel like, yes, but I can't do this, it's too hard, then help them understand that what they're currently doing is harder and making it harder. Or maybe there's a smaller step we can make in the right direction, but helping them understand what's really important about it. But it's a lot about the permission, right? Making them feel like they deserve that care, they deserve to receive that help, to give themselves that time, to feel like they're allowed to take time, support and nourishment, that they're allowed to lean on someone else, right? Often we're talking about mums who everyone leans on them and telling them, you know, you don't have to worry about this, put it in my hands, I'll support you through it. And the biggest shift I need to help them make is going from I just need more willpower to I need systems that support me even when I'm tired. I need just really simple things I can do, even if I'm exhausted, even if I just want to go to bed, even if it's a really busy day. And that's a big part of what I do as a coach, is I help figure out what the minimum effective dose is, what an easy lunch is that you can pack, not the most perfect thing, but the easiest thing. What's the most easy dinner you can make for yourself? Cheese toasty, boom, done, go to bed. Don't need to start cooking salmon and broccoli and like a million different things. Like, let's just keep it super duper simple. So the main focus here is working through the ambivalence and getting clarity. It's not necessarily about action steps at this point, although very small ones can help. Okay, so stage number 3 is preparation. If you're listening to this podcast, you're probably at the preparation stage. This sounds like, okay, I'm ready, willing and able, I want to make a change. I just need a plan I can actually maintain as a mum. This is often when people start asking about coaching, when they book a call. This is often where you're at if you are listening to this podcast or other podcasts of mine more closely, or really taking on board what I'm saying in my posts. And if you're clear that you know what the problem is, you know it needs to change, you just need to know what to do. You just need to know what to focus on, because there's so much noise out there. So what am I actually supposed to do? Should I do low carb? Should I do keto? Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I join body like pump or whatever, often people are already starting to work out and they're not seeing the change that they want. So they've been working out for 6 months, or they've been watching what they eat and they've not lost weight. So often people know that they need to change at this stage, but they don't know what they need to change exactly. And the emotional driver behind this is wanting to be better, wanting to improve, wanting to get to a better place. It's not so much in the protection and like, oh, I feel so ashamed about this. It's more in like, okay, I realize this is a problem. What am I going to do about it? What works really well here is action, right? Giving people an action plan, a really clear action plan of 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the things you're going to focus on every day, every week. And that's normally, let's say fat loss is the goal, right? You need to track your calories. You need to eat 4 meals a day at certain times and regular times. You need to start upping your steps a bit. Here's your step goal. And if muscle building, maintaining muscle, etc. is part of the goal, you need to start doing a strength training program. Here's your plan. Here's exactly what to do. So just having an action plan, knowing what to focus on is really important. But a couple more things that are important is also making it very, very realistic. Okay, so if somebody is currently doing 5,000 steps a day, I might push them to do 6,000 steps a day, not 10,000 steps a day. Okay, so just increasing the goal slightly. If somebody is just trying to get the hang of calories, I don't give them an impossibly low calorie goal at this stage, and I give them a higher day so that they've got a day off. Often people want to make a change at this stage, but they get overwhelmed easily. So with tracking, for example, they're like, oh, I just feel like tracking is really hard. I've started doing it, but I'm not sure I'm tracking everything right. So here they often need reassurance. Like, it's okay. You don't need to do it perfectly. I'll look at your MyFitnessPal. I'll give you some feedback. We'll figure it out over time. For now, I just want you to focus on starting and doing it imperfectly. It doesn't need to be perfect. We can improve over time. It's just about starting. And another thing that's really helpful at this stage is re-education. People have so much noise in their heads and so much conflicting information. And often in this beginning stage, when somebody's feeling very motivated, that's when they ask me a ton of questions like, should I cut carbs? And should I be doing this? And should I be doing that? And can I drink alcohol? And what about this? And what about that? All these like influencers and people talking at them. Should I buy a weighted vest? Should I buy creatine? And it's like getting them to just drown out all the noise, focus on the big rocks and not major in minors. Don't focus on the minutia. You don't need supplements. You don't need a weighted vest. You don't need equipment. You don't need a special protocol. You just need to do these basics. Here's what the basics are. Calorie deficit, eating proper meals at regular meal times, getting your steps up. That's it, right? That's all you got to do at this stage. So a big part of my job is just drowning out the noise and getting them to focus on the most important things, rather than getting all tangled in the weeds of all these different tidbits of information that confuse the shit out of them. There's a great expression that I love. If you want to impress people, complicate things. If you want to help people, simplify things. And this is so important at this stage. And it also helps to focus on their environment on this stage rather than motivation. My job is not to keep people's motivation high. My job is to break down the obstacles that get in people's way and build up the environment that is going to help them. So getting them to stock up on certain things each week so they've got their go-tos. They've got low-fat cottage cheese. They've got protein yogurts. They've got fresh fruit available. They've got some protein bars just in case. Getting them to put all of their sweet treats in an opaque box up high so it's out of the way and they can't see it, and it just makes a barrier to getting it out. It doesn't mean it's not there. You have to throw it all in the bin, but it just creates an extra barrier. And also giving them things like my cheese toasty, right? It's like the easiest meal in the world to make. It takes 3 minutes. It's 400 calories, 19 grams protein, super duper filling, melted cheese and bread. Like, who doesn't want to eat that? But it's so simple. Anyone can do it. No matter how busy you are, you can make that for dinner. Creating things like that, so it's not like, okay, 9 o'clock at night, you've got to start chopping up a salad and grilling some salmon, right? That is never going to work for busy people trying to move in the right direction. When it comes to workouts, often, again, breaking it down, giving them a minimum effective dose workout protocol. It might be 10 to 20 minutes. It might be once or twice a week. It might be just 3 exercises that they do twice a week. it doesn't matter, but just breaking it down to wherever they're at. Obviously, if someone's more advanced, giving them something like that is gonna feel like, okay, what's the point? I'm already doing more. So you've got to get it right to their level, but you do have to be able to correctly assess their level. A big mistake that coaches make is they just give everyone the same training plan, no matter how much of a beginner or advanced they are. Somebody who's a total beginner is going to get so overwhelmed by that, and someone who's more advanced is going to feel like it's patronizing and not enough for them. So you've got to get it right for the person's level and their competence level with exercise, with diet, and how confident they are with it. So the goal here is all about making things frictionless, not impressive. No overhauls, just steps in the right direction. Okay, so step number 4 is action. This is when someone is just doing it, right? They've got past that beginner's hump and they're just doing it. They're tracking, they're walking, they're training, they're planning their meals, and now it's just rinse, repeat. And really what works here, the person's already getting some, they've got some momentum going, they've got some confidence, they're feeling good. Often at this stage, people say like, wow, this is so much easier than I thought it was. Like I thought I was gonna be starving, I thought it was gonna be miserable, but actually this is fine, and tracking isn't that bad, and the workouts feel great, and they're feeling so much better already, even if they're just a few kilos in. So then my job as a coach is to stay close, to celebrate the small wins. Their brain is deciding whether or not to keep the habit. So giving them that bit of dopamine hit, making sure they're feeling good, giving them a bit of an ego boost, giving them a pat on the back. Help them to tolerate boredom, because this is where often people sort of go, oh, I'm bored of eating the same thing, or I'm bored of doing the same thing. And it's like, yeah, like, look, doing what you need to do to get fit is often boring, right? You need to be okay with just being bored and not, oh, I want to change it up. This is where some people will be like, can you write me a new program? It's like, you've literally been doing it for 2 weeks. No, you need to do the same thing for like 12 weeks. They need to learn that it's about consistent action over long periods of time, and they're not just going to get this instant gratification of like 2 weeks or a month of work and it's all going to fall into their lap. No, it's a practice. You have to keep going. My job here is also to help them with setbacks that come up. So if they have a weekend and then they get a bit loosey-goosey and they eat too much, and I'm there to help them and help them with the mindset and say, okay, yep, the scale's up this morning, it's okay, just get back on track, you know what to do, just go back to the basics. And I'm there to anticipate setbacks before they happen. If I know a holiday is coming up, or if I know that something, I can see something like getting difficult for them on the horizon, anticipating that and telling them, maybe not a detailed plan, but just that there is a solution to this thing coming up. But this part of the process is fairly straightforward, right? It's just about support. It's just about a pat on the back and being ready for when something happens, because something will happen. Something always happens. What most people don't realize in this stage is they think everything's always going to be easy because it's easy now. But no, like next week your kid's going to get sick, or you're going to have a holiday, or something else is going to go on. You're going to fall off the wagon. It always happens, but people don't realize when they're feeling good, they think they're never going to feel bad again. And when they're feeling bad, they think they're never going to feel good again. And my job is about helping manage those expectations. Okay, so number 5 is maintenance. Stage number 5 is maintenance. This is just part of my life now. It's starting to become habit. It's not just the exciting bit at the beginning where everything's novel and you're doing it and you're getting some results and you're seeing the scale go down and you're feeling stronger in the gym. It's where it just feels like part of your life. You know what to do, you know what to eat, you've created new habits, and it starts to become part of your identity. You start to identify as someone who works out, as somebody who eats the right things, as someone who goes to bed on time. And when someone's at this stage, they've probably been through a few hard challenges on the program so far. So they've had a sick kid and then they've got back on track afterwards. They've had a fluctuation up after a heavy weekend and they've got back on track afterwards and continue to lose weight. They had a week where they were sick and they missed their workouts and they got back on track. They've learned some skills to self-regulate and regulate their emotions in the evening rather than just turning to food. And they often say things like, I kind of don't want the junk now. Like I want to eat my healthy sandwich or my healthy salad. Like I look forward to the foods that I'm eating. I'm not craving the junk. I don't want the crap. And I went out last night and for dinner with my husband for our anniversary, and I did eat a bit more than I normally would, and I didn't track calories, but I kind of felt full. And then I was like, oh, I've had enough. Like I don't want more. So people often start to feel that these changes start to feel deeper for them and more natural for them. And my job here is identity reinforcement, is reinforcing the habit, telling them they're doing a great job, and also giving them little stretch goals. So continuing to add little bits. This is where you can start to make things more complicated, where you can add in like a more complicated exercise in the gym, or you can get them working on pull-ups, or you can get them maybe doing carb cycling or cycling their calories or doing some kind of protocol that's a bit more advanced at this point, because they have the confidence in the basics to give something a try. And if it doesn't work, they can just go back to what was working before, and they don't feel like it's going to completely make them lose a sense of themselves and completely dysregulate them. This is also where the person starts to have more autonomy and they just need a lot less hand holding. And sometimes this is when someone has done, they've got what they need from the program and it's time to start weaning off. So this process continues to be about tweaking things, not making big overhauls, but tweaking things, experimenting with things, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, and seeing how it fits into your life. And step number 6, a really important one, is relapse and return to old patterns, because this happens for everyone. It's not like you'll make a change, whether a big overhaul or small steps in the right directions. You are always going to go back in your progress. You're always going to relapse to old habits. I started losing weight like 15 years ago now. That was the first time I lost weight and started learning about health and fitness and all of that. And I still eat emotionally sometimes. It's just not such a big deal. It's like it happens very infrequently. It happens when I'm very, very overloaded. I don't have the whole guilt tripping afterwards. I'm just like, okay, this is a sign that I need a little bit more rest. I need to de-stress. I need to be more proactive about that. It's not this big, to me, it's just a sign that things are not in balance. It's not this big thing that I get really worked up about now. But what people don't realize is that all the way along the way, you are going to regress into old patterns. Now, this often happens when kids get sick, when there's school holidays, when there's a big project on at work, or when there's just emotional overwhelm or something going on in your marriage. Again, people think that when they're feeling good, they think they're always going to feel good. And when they're feeling bad, they think they're always going to feel bad. It's this very big cognitive bias that people have, and they don't correctly anticipate how they're going to feel in a different situation. So for example, really common scenario is people often, when they start the program, everything's going really, really well, and they have a holiday coming up, and they're like, when I'm on holiday, I'm just going to track all my calories and I'm going to eat my regular meals and I'm not going to give in to temptation. And in my mind, I'm like, yeah, right, like that's never going to happen. But they kind of need to experience that failure of things don't go to plan and things go a bit sideways and I'm not completely in control of everything, and that bit of a freak out. And I need to help coach them through that. It's okay. It's normal to not eat exactly the same when you're on holiday. It's normal to overindulge. It's normal to have some more food, to have especially when you've got lots of social eating things. Once you're back, we're going to get you back into your habits and into your routines. Or when someone has a sick kid, or they haven't slept because the baby's sick, or they're having problems with their child, they fall back into emotional eating habits. Now, emotional eating is another really big one where people have, these emotional eating habits and they think they're just gonna change overnight and tomorrow I'm gonna stop it and it's never gonna happen again. That's not how it happens. It happens more gradually over time, and you will relapse, but you'll relapse less frequently and with less intensity. So maybe it happens once a week and then it goes to happening once every 2 weeks. And when you do eat, you maybe have a couple of chocolate bars, but you're not eating the whole pantry. And then it might be 6 months with no emotional eating binges. And then all of a sudden something happens and it happens again. My job here is to coach them back to stability, coach them back to getting on an even keel, and just tell them, don't freak out about it. It's normal, it's okay. A big part of my job as a coach is to normalize the slip up. The idea that you're never gonna have slip ups is crazy. It's okay. It's very normal. It's very human. You're a human, not a robot. Just get back on track. Don't wait till Monday. Don't wait until tomorrow. Next meal, just get back on track. Don't try to compensate. Don't try to catch up. Don't try to fit 4 workouts in this week instead of 2 because you didn't do 2 last week. No, just keep going on with the plan. Don't cut your calories super duper low, just carry on with the plan that we have. So my job is to reduce the shame and the spiraling and the negative self-talk and the guilt, just from the pure perspective that it's not helpful. It's just a pragmatic approach. It's okay, fine, you feel guilty about it, put it down. What are you going to do about it now? Because you can't change the past, you can only change the future. You can only change what you're going to do now and in the future. So my job is to normalize the regression and to help them get into a place where they're now thinking forward instead of backwards. What I can do now rather than what I did before. Not slip into fuck it, like if I've slipped up, fuck everything, I've given up now, I'm just gonna go back to how I was eating before, and then you gain the 10 kilos you've lost back on. No, that's not sensible. But also don't go into compensation mode. Oh, because I overate last night, I have to get my calories down really low. No, just carry on with the plan, cool, calm, headed, steady-headed and cool. And then the next step of it is to, once they've calmed down and they've regulated themselves emotionally, physically, is to then reflect on what happened and why it happened. What were the triggers that led you to overeat or to binge, and how can we prevent them in the future, right? That's all we can do. And also acceptance that it is going to happen sometimes, and that's okay, and you can still be healthy if you're occasionally overeating, right? That's part of a healthy relationship with food. It's not about being perfect all the time. It's not about never overindulging. It's about balance, okay? It's about being able to do what you need to do most of the time and enjoying it some of the time, and enjoying more fun stuff some of the time, and then get them back into the systems and strengthen those systems rather than tightening the rules. So you notice how they tighten the rules suddenly. If they have a slip up, they go, now I need to cut my calories. Now I need to work out today to burn it off, right? They tighten the tendency is to want to tighten the rules, but instead saying, no, just go back to the system, go back to what was working. And then from relapse, you cycle back into, okay, action, and then very quickly you'll be back into maintenance phase. So as humans, we go back and forth between these stages. It's normal, but we just need to accept the stage that we're at and then gently move into the next stage. So I hope you found that helpful. Those were the 6 stages, psychological stages of change, and apply to fat loss and exercise. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below on which stage you're at on your journey. If it's, in general, I'm thinking about making changes to lose weight, or if there's a particular habit that you feel like you need to adjust or change, or that you've already changed and you've made it a habit and it's part of your identity. Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear how this applies to you in your life. And obviously, hopefully, I've given you a lot of tools here for how you can figure out yourself where you're at and how you can help yourself at this stage. But if you do need help with this process and you need somebody to handhold you through these stages and get you into the next stage and help you create a plan and help ask the right questions so that you're reflecting on what changes you want to make and why, then talk to me about online coaching. I have a few spots available for my online coaching program where we work one-on-one to make very big changes over time and massive transformations, but using a lot of psychology and these sorts of insights to helping you move in the right direction, small changes that compound over time rather than big overhauls and cookie cutter programs where everyone has the same thing. So that's it. Thanks for listening, and let me know if you have any requests for future podcast episodes.